Hello, so in this video, we're going to be breaking down TJ Defalco's attacks against Team Turkey. This first one, he's back row over here. It's a very nice pipe right between the legs. Okay, if you notice here, I think this was an interesting run because he comes from right behind the middle to where the middle blocker can't really see him. And you see on his jump, he jumps off to the side. So it's kind of like a little float, which makes it really hard for the middle to block. Even though he's already jumping that way, it seems like TJ intentionally jumped extra far. This is definitely something they've been practicing. Is that little, he took his approach, he's coming in straight, and then drifts off to the side. And that just gave no one up. Stuck it right between that guy's legs. So this one, he kind of does a little bit of the same thing. But since the pass was over here to the left, you see Micah's over here. He didn't run it so directly off of the middle. Usually you try to get pretty close to the middle. But it seemed like they ran kind of a spot just right in the middle. So this is something that some coaches will say is that if the pass is passed too far to the right, then just default to the middle of the court, which I actually like because it can get kind of messy if you run a bit too far to one side or the other. So this swing was a super good swing. They didn't get the point on this, but it really looks like he got the touch. He swung nice high hands right through the hands. It's probably the best thing he could have done here. But the refs didn't see the touch, so they didn't give it to him. On this, they ran this one super fast. He's coming in like at a 1.5, showing where he's hitting super early, but the blockers are not up on time. So he just rips as hard as he can. Gets the kill. Oh, this high ball, that was a great swing. Chucked from all the way over here. You see, he doesn't get too far of an approach, but something he does that's really, really interesting is he stops right here, inside, not too far off the net, but as soon as he sees the ball, he takes a little back step. You see that right there? He just takes this little back hop to get more room for his approach, and then is able to be behind it so he could get more power and really rip this ball. So on this one, kind of smart. He waited. He held the ball and waited to hopefully find the hands, but hits it right off of his head, which was a good 0. So the U.S. ran this so fast, and TJ, we see him do his signature little arm swing, just kind of cross body. I don't really know where he learned that or who taught him that, but it seems to work, and I've been trying it, and it helps get a lot of power, especially if the ball is low and you can't take a full swing. They're running it so fast that like it's not going to be a perfect set, so he does a really good job of just swinging high even on this low set and him not being all the way up there. So it seems like he went just for high hands here. And probably missed them. It's a good swing, just went a little too high. Oh, I guess there's a touch. It's a nice out-of-system ball. We see him do that same little drift again. But he's really able to put some power on this one. The middle did a great job of recognizing where that pass was and then jumping towards the setter. It's kind of hard when middles do this, though, and they take their approach wide. So TJ had a lot of trust in his middle to not hesitate and just keep going and making sure that the middle is going to get out of the way, which a lot of middles don't. So they ran this really, really well. I guess that's part of drifting to the side, is it helps make sure the middle is not in the way, because after you take this approach, jumping to the side will get you out of harm's way. So they ran that one super fast too. A little bit of a transition ball, pretty much a free ball though. And does that like low short swing with his arm. Not reaching super high, but just tucking his shoulder, doing a little bit crossbody. If you notice, he doesn't really follow through super hard, and he doesn't twist his body very much. You see his arm just kind of stop right there and then come back. That helps when you're running super fast sets. So here we go again, like running a 1.5. Just trying to find some hands or something, knowing the block's going to be up and they're going to know where you're hitting it. They're not going to be up all the way though when you run it this fast. So what he's doing is just trying to beat the blocker and then just peg it off his hands if he can. Does this crossbody again. TJ's not very big, so he doesn't have much range, especially against these really big blockers and great blockers. See, he didn't know what to do. He saw the blockers were both there, and he was afraid, so he just tried to chop it in between them and take a 0. Ooh. That was rough. They're starting to recognize and see this. So I was a little bit behind him. The set looked like it was a little behind him and did not tip it high enough. This is a great swing. Super risky, though. Like, he could have gotten housed right here. But he swung high enough. And just got lucky. A lot of times if you just hit the ball really hard at the hands, you'll get the point. Because it's really rare that a block is super solidly formed. There's always some holes and some gaps that you can hit off of. There. So they're starting to read it. They're starting to see that he only has one spot, and that's angle. So the middle almost guess. I think his priority was TJ, considering how early he left, and then was gonna dive back to the middle if he set him. Yeah, it's just a tough ball to hit. It's really hard to run a bic or a back bic 40, whatever you want to call it. Something about that ball just doesn't give you a lot of power, and when you're hitting from the back row, you need a lot of power. It's kind of, just seems like he was trying to, the setter was trying to trick the blockers, which he kind of did. But it's just, you have to run that so perfect, and it's super hard. Yeah, that was nice. See, so what Maiko's probably thinking is, there's no way the middles think I'm going to set this right now. It's right, easy, simple bic right in the middle of the court. But you see the middles are thinking, no way, so he's just gone. That's the only way this would really work, is if the middles bail. So Maiko was counting on that. And so TJ is not super confident hitting against these blockers. He knows they're way bigger than him, and they can shut down most of his range, so he's starting to try to swing high. He's afraid this middle is going to get there on time, and he just starts missing. Yeah, so it's super hard, especially if you're not that big, to transition after a short serve. So that's what they're doing. And especially with how fast they run it and not being big, it takes longer for TJ to get up there. And he's inside, not there on time, so he's forced to tip these balls. That's going to happen a lot with him. It happens a lot with me, too. Just we can't get away with taking no approach and still getting enough power, enough height if the blockers are up. So it sets him again. This is a good deep swing. He got a better transition on this one. But if you notice, he goes really wide and not very deep. So he's in right now. He's in front of the 10-foot line over here. It's really all he needs. So this set was a little inside, so he's really reaching. He's landing on the other side of the court. Yeah, so it's really, really hard to transition as an outside if you're this far over. He didn't turn around. He's backpedaling. I understand why they're running the ball so fast, or at least they're trying to, that he wants to be available at any moment. Ideally, you want to turn and run. He would have gotten way further off and gotten a better approach, considering how high they set this ball. But he's also trying to be ready for the fastest set possible. So he didn't get a great approach, didn't get much power. They had 3 up, and just took a nice 0. He tries to go for that high hands off of the blocker again, but is timid because he's been missing and been getting blocked. That's a great swing. Here, gets super wide. He turned and ran on this one. You see, there's a little hop, gets wide as a circle. It just seems like not a very efficient approach. I mean, I know he's really good and has done really well, but especially against these bigger guys, it seems like he's starting to struggle because he's not able to take as big of an approach with how fast they're setting the ball. Yeah. And then this has to be perfect when you're setting it this fast, especially on the right side. If the ball's behind you a little bit, there's almost nothing you can do. And you see he's forced to windmill. They do a super big drift on this. And maybe it was just too far forward of a set. This play just seemed a little sloppy. Like they weren't as. So if you see earlier, TJ was really behind the middle, and this one he's a little bit further. The middle's not really on the setter. That just caused a lot of problems. They ran it better here. See, middle's a little tighter to the setter. Now TJ's able to be right behind him, and they really execute well on this one. There we go. Taking a lot of zeros. So he tries to go for that one again. It's just not really working. Yeah, they're still trying to run this kind of fast. And it's so hard to do that, especially when the ball's passed over here. When the ball's coming over your shoulder, it's super hard to run it fast like that. Unless you're 6'10" like Matt Anderson. That was great. So it seems like the balls are starting to come a little bit inside, and TJ's been forced to hit them to the right. Maybe they're running a different set. If you notice, TJ's not approaching from right behind the middle like he has been. He's approaching over here and he's coming straight on. So maybe they're trying to adjust with the set and set it a little bit more inside since he's not really drifting as much. Maybe that was on Micah. And the last one takes a 0. I mean, this is a high ball, and I understand he just passed that ball and is trying to transition as much as he can, but what he should do is stay deep stay deep, take a big approach. I mean, Mike is an amazing setter, and TJ's not able to get a really good approach off of this one and take a good swing. Maybe he's just afraid because he's been getting blocked and taking a lot of zeros. So he just takes another one. But I feel like ideally, it seems like he's running, trying to get there on time for a fast set. Which is the problem with running it so fast, is that it's hard to slow down when you're used to running it super fast. Okay, so that's what we got on this game for TJ. I mean, I think he's been doing really well, but you can see that he's been struggling because of his height and maybe because of how fast the team is running it. We see in the last game against Japan, he didn't play. So let me know what you think about him. I think if they slow it down a tiny bit, and if he can take a further approach, he would do a lot better. If you want me to do this for you, you can send me film, email me. My email's in the description.